All right. This is different. The 2023 Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, seriously, what the hell happened here? Let's take it back to last year. At the beginning of the season, the Eagles were already considered one of the better teams in the NFC. They draft well, they got a stacked roster, and they just added A.J. Brown at the draft. Yes! Now, the main question was Jalen Hurts. Is he the answer for the future? He played well in 2021, but it wasn't consistent enough. Plus, the playoff loss to Tampa Bay was pretty bad. So, will we see Jalen make the leap? After going 14-3, including an 8-0 start, you can pretty much say that the answer is a resounding Now, in the regular season, the Eagles were dominant on both sides of the ball, led by two amazing coordinators, Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. Put a pin in that. We'll get back to it later. Now, back to the season. Both sides of the ball were elite.
The world, Craig. Shit, not just the city, the world.
Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate and finished with 3,701 passing yards with 22 passing touchdowns and only 6 picks. He also had 760 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns, one shy of the record at the time. Of course, that's thanks to the brotherly shove. But the offense as a whole was clicking. Miles Sanders had over 1,200 yards on the ground. A.J. Brown had almost 1,500 yards receiving. Devontae Smith had almost 1,200 yards receiving. And Dallas Goedert had over 700 yards receiving. Not to mention, they had one of the best O-lines in the league. If not one of the best, the best. Then on the defense, you had a defensive line that led the league in sacks with 70. That was 2 shy of the record. And they also had a secondary that was number 1 in pass defense all across the board. This defense was literally top 5 in almost every defensive category last year. It was insane. So, of course, the Eagles easily clinched the division and the number 1 seed. No problem. And now here come the playoffs. And the Eagles did not flinch once. They destroyed the Giants, who somehow made it, by the way. And then they stomped the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Although you could say Brock Purdy got hurt and yada, yada, yada. And then on to the Super Bowl, where they faced
the best there is,
Patrick Mahomes,
the best there was,
and the Kansas City Chiefs.
and the best there ever will be.
Now, we all know what happened. The Eagles got so close, but they were held back, if you will.
Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker.
So fast forward to this season. Now, the Eagles started the season 8-1, heading into the bye week. But you can tell that this was not the same Eagles team as last year.
Nope.
The offense just looked, prime example, take a look at the Jets game from week 6.
What the fuck is that?
But truthfully, I think the more surprising thing is how the defense looked. They look vulnerable, especially in the secondary. Yeah, I know, 8-1 is good. You are what your record says you are. But it just didn't look good. The secondary was also showing its age, and the linebacker play was just...
Try!
There was also a lack of pressure from the D-line. They just were not getting to the quarterback as much as they were last year. Not to mention just too many turnovers. Now, coming out of the bye week, the Eagles had a gauntlet up ahead. Now, the hope was that we would maybe see the Eagles turn a corner.
Nope.
Flip a switch.
Nope.
Something.
Nope.
We just needed to see the Eagles be the Eagles. Something resembling last year. Well, first up, you got the Chiefs. A rematch of last year's Super Bowl. And... sheesh. I'm just going to say this. They should have lost this one. If Valdez catches that pass, touchdown. Game over. It's a wrap.
Yep, you're a lucky luck boy.
Next up, the Bills come to town. And this was a bit of a thriller that the Eagles should have lost as well.
Yep, you're a lucky luck boy.
And this kind of explains how the season kind of went this year. Games where they won, but they were pretty close to being losses. And now you have the 49ers, who are coming for blood after the NFC Championship. And,
Take me to the hospital. Take me to the hospital. I'm sick.
This is kind of where everything fell off the rails here. They went 1-5 to close out the year, and frankly, it should have been 0-6. So, You're probably wondering, what in the flying fuck happened?
What happened?
Well, welcome to Deep Cut. The sword is sharpened and forged with the souls of lost seasons. Let's chop it up, shall we? Number 1, the offense. So technically, Jalen had a better year statistically, with more passing yards and 1 more touchdown than last year. He also had over 600 yards rushing. And he also broke the record for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Josh Allen tied it, by the way. Then, off-season pickup DeAndre Swift, he had over 1,000 yards rushing. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith each had over 1,000 yards. But it just didn't look good. There was missed throws, improper routes being ran, schemes literally thrown out of the window. No structure, no game plan. It just didn't have the same punch and the same flow like it did last year. And then as the season went on, it just sputtered out of control. And they just simply didn't look like the Eagles. And it cost them wins down the stretch. They weren't running the ball. They weren't using Jalen's legs. All they had was the tush push, and that was it. Number 2, the defense. Holy shit. What happened to the defense? They went from a top 5 defense to a bottom tier, bottom third of the league in everything. They couldn't rush the quarterback. They couldn't really stop the run. They definitely couldn't defend the pass at all. And they just fell apart down the stretch. And let me just say this so all the people in the back can hear me. Matt Patricia should never coach again, unless it's a class about wearing a pencil in your ear. Seriously, who thought this was a good idea? Number 3, coordinators. So obviously losing both coordinators will take a hit, but this definitely took more of a hit than expected. Shane Steichen is clearly a genius offensive mind, as if we need another one in this league, but he almost took the Colts to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew as his quarterback. And then Jonathan Gannon, did I say more about the Cardinals? They were fighting every week. I mean, look at the wins they got off. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Steelers. It was such a huge change in production, especially if you're just hiring from within. You would think they would keep it kind of similar to what they ran last year and not change too much. But apparently both of the coordinators they hired just said, yeah, fuck all that. We're going to do our own shit. Now, it is tough to replace good coaching, and the Eagles tried to play it safe by keeping it in-house, but that clearly was not the move. Not to mention the Matt Patricia thing again. Seriously, like, who the hell signed off on this? And that leads me to number 4, Nick Sirianni. Now, he may have dodged the axe this year, but I know the front office has their eyebrows raised after that collapse during the season. You gotta hope for a difference next year. Now, I will give him props for hiring Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio for offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator respectively. But at the same time, he kind of just sat there and watched this whole thing play out. He just let the team lay down and die. I mean, there were times his play calling was just simply stupid. And there was just no taking command. There was no captain of the ship. I mean, Jalen Hurts was more of a coach than he was. And he's the quarterback of the team. He's doing enough as it is.
Help me! Help me!
As a coach, you have to be able to galvanize your team, pull them out of the rut, and put them in the best position to win. And he just didn't do that. I mean, hiring Matt, what the fuck is defense Patricia is just simply not a good idea. Now, I believe that next year is a make or break year for him. But I think he took a step in the right direction with the hires that he made, for the most part. So, all in all, this season is the total definition and a prime example of a Super Bowl hangover. The Eagles still have a lot going for them, and I don't think the window is closed. They still have a really good front office that drafts and develops well. You still have great players already on the roster. I mean, the offense alone, you got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, DeAndre Swift, Dallas Goedert, arguably still a pretty damn good offensive line, even without Kelsey. And that's just the offense. The defense has some players too. Fletcher might come back. You still got Hassan Reddick. You got Sweat. You got Jalen Carter. You got Nolan Smith. Blankenship is a good safety. But the secondary and the linebacker group needs help in the worst way. I mean, they took a lot of lumps when Edwards and Epps left. I mean, that was like literally the core of the defense right there. But there are still plenty of pieces there, and most of the core is still there to at least somewhat get back to form next year. You just got to get back to being the Eagles. And let me tell you some ideas how. First things first, get back to running the ball more. Now, Kellen Moore is a whiz kid at offense. We all know this. But I will say this, the one thing about him is that he has a tendency to stray away from the run. Let's just be honest here. Austin Eckler fell off a cliff last year. So I will say this, don't be afraid to use Jalen's run ability. You still have one of the best O-lines in the league. Use it. Secondly, fix the defense. Get some younger pieces in the secondary and tune up that linebacker group. There's a couple free agents hitting the market this year, and there's a lot of good young guys in the draft. The Eagles draft well. Now, you have Vic Fangio, who was a consultant during the Super Bowl run last year, so that should help tremendously, because if he has full control over it, I think the Eagles will be much better defensively. Third, start looking for depth at the O-line. Like I said, Kelsey's pretty much out of the building. He's retired now, but some of the other guys are getting up there too, like Dickerson, like Johnson. It wouldn't hurt to start bringing in younger guys and have them watch some of the best to ever do it. And lastly, and more importantly, don't ever bring Matt Patricia in that building ever again. You understand? This season was definitely a collapse, for sure. But they still have most of the core there, like I said. Sirianni really has to get this team back on track this year, and we gotta see improvement, or at least a sniff of what we saw. Otherwise, the Eagles won't be flying much anymore, and the flock may start a riot. Why? Because that's Philly.
I'm tired of fucking losing, dude. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of being a bitch. I'm tired of being a sorry, sad-ass motherfucking organization.
But thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out the new segment that I just dropped, Sunday Smacks. We basically take a look at all the blowouts across the sports world and we just make fun of it. But make sure you give somebody a hug today. Make sure you smile today. Keep your head up. Keep the negativity down. And be yourself. But let's get out of here. WLYR 93.0 is the station. That's what's up. Samurai Panda Sports is the show. Don't get cut. I am your host, Lyricist the Kid, signing. Off. And we out.